Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Red Circle, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Also, the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn the notifications on. Also, subscribe to Off the Floor, $3.05 per month. First week is free. You get text directly to your phone from Alex, Brady, myself, and Greg. Exclusive Q&As, prize picks, contests, and more. Again, it's winnow.app/off-the-floor. Also, check out Better Edge, one of our sponsors here. All kinds of NFL stuff coming up. Get the line that you want. You can do it legally at betteredge.com. That's with an O, betteredge.com. Use the code 5RSN. You get $20 to play. You got a chance to beat our guy Sean Rochester this week in week one as the NFL season starts on Thursday. And now, today's episode.
Five on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the Five Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. And if you're a Heat fan and you're on Twitter, you know this guy, and we know this guy because I'm always checking for the notifications in the morning. He's been doing the dirty work. He's been doing the stuff that we don't want to do, which is listen to all these Portland podcasts, Boston podcasts, national media podcasts, which actually is the same thing as a Boston podcast. You can find him on Twitter at Dru_Star. That's all we're telling you, right? That's it, right, Drew?
That's right, Ethan.
Okay, well, there you go. All right, so let's start here. You are now a mini celebrity. You've been written up in an article, I believe, in Miami New Times by a guy, Riz McGiz, who actually I did a radio show with way back when. And I just want to ask, why did you take on, before we get to some of the crazier things you've seen, and all of this, or a lot of this is related to the Dame Lillard trade. We're still waiting for that to happen. Why did you take on this assignment exactly?
Well, it's something that I've been doing during off seasons and during trade deadlines. Is just following the transaction talk. Everybody loves transaction talk. I love it more than anybody else. So I go out and I find this stuff. I listen to the podcast. I watch the shows. I'm reading the articles, and I don't want to just share, that information with my significant other. She doesn't want to hear that from me. So I bring it to you guys. I bring it to the fans, the Miami Heat fans. So I want to try to help the discourse along during the day. Content I know you guys got to produce, and you're looking for stuff, so I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, we appreciate that because it's been a long summer waiting for this thing to happen. Yes, we do. I mean seriously, we are out of ideas. I'm just going to acknowledge that before we continue. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're having you on tonight. Not that we didn't want to have you on, but we are legitimately out of ideas. Like yesterday, Alex, I think we started the podcast and then realized we'd done it already. Right? Like that was the rotation thing. So I just pivoted to Kyle Lowry and whether or not the Heat actually have a point guard if Dame doesn't show up. Like we have no ideas left.
We can still do that rotation pod. I'm sure people will like it.
Didn't we just do that 2 weeks ago? I feel we did.
We discussed starters in one of the podcasts. We could talk about the rotation.
Okay. I mean, we could also talk about the two ways again. I don't know if we've done that enough times.
I mean, they have a lot of front court players. I do think it would be a good conversation. We might have all different rotations, but I digress.
Well, they don't have Christian Wood, and that's everybody's panicking over that one right now. All right. So, Drew, before we get to some of the crazier things that you've heard and you've had to put out there for us so that, again, we can continue with our content during the offseason, how many podcasts are you listening to per day lately?
It starts in the morning. I'll wake up in the morning. I'll see the timeline there that refresh with all the pods, Portland pods or Boston pods, national pods, Ringer pods, Spotify, everything. And I just kind of start listening at that point, in the morning. I wake up at the crack of dawn, so I get an early start. And I'm listening to whatever's out there, as many as I can a day, 3, 4, 5, trying to speed that along and just clipping the best things possible, listening for any sort of little morsel of information, any quote, no matter how small, and just kind of putting it out there. I do it for the Heat fans, for Miami-Dade County, okay, representing. And I want to thank you guys for having me on the most downloaded individual NBA team podcast out there, per Greg Sylvander.
Yes, no, that's an accurate report by Greg Sylvander, by the way. We can confirm that particular piece of information that Greg has put out there. Before I go to Alex on this, I just want to ask, do you have a day job? Like, how are you fitting this in?
I do have a day job. I do. Yes, that's why I'm waking up that early in the morning.
Okay. And you still have a significant other after all this, which again, I appreciate the commitment on all sides here. Alex, you have any questions for Mr. Star here before I go forward?
My question is, how do you do it, man? How do you do it? Like, just listening to all these other types of personalities. Like, I know you said you do it for everybody, and like I said, like, we really appreciate it because, shows like us and our friends over at Locked On, for example, who are we're doing daily Heat shows or close to daily Heat shows. Any morsel of kind of of a Dame update or a free agent update is just extremely valuable at this point to us, and we're trying to keep this thing going until October when the season is back. So my question is, how do you deal with these types of hot takes and the amount of kind of garbage that you have to sift through on a daily basis?
Well, oddly enough, the more garbage and hot the take is, the more interaction that it's going to garner, out there.
Yeah.
So I'll try to find the worst take possible, the hottest take possible, and just really try to kind of highlight that. Unless somebody's really going out there, I saw that there was like an opening in the market there, for what I'm doing with all these clips and the audio and stuff like that, because usually it would be like these big aggregate accounts, that got 1 million plus followers on Twitter and stuff, and they'll kind of aggregate something and it'll get out there. And I just wanted something a little bit more concentrated on the Miami Heat. So I said, you know what? I'm listening to these things. I'm reading the articles. I'm watching the shows. Let me just go ahead and put it out there and then just kind of help drive that conversation. And this summer, more than in the past, I don't know, it just kind of really took off with a lot of the local media guys, newspaper guys, local sportscasters, and I just kind of got a big following. I've garnered a lot of guys, a lot of people, a lot of followers. And you guys have been a big part of that there because you're constantly reposting stuff and quote tweeting stuff. And I love to see it. I just kind of love to sit back, throw something out there, throw a hot take out there, and just kind of see everybody, gang up on the person that I'm quoting and stuff. And it's kind of fun seeing that stuff. So I just kind of like help driving the conversation, just doing my part to kind of help things move along, because everything's kind of dried up with the news. You're not hearing really
so
Woj
much.
or Shams. Yeah, you're not hearing anything from Woj or Shams anymore, and it's just kind of like the local guys. And I like getting that insight from the Portland guys, because we can get everything from national guys, but I kind of like to see where they're coming from, their point of view. So I appreciate what they do, and they do great stuff over there. And even, Danny Morang and Sean Highkin and all the, the usual suspects, I appreciate what they do. And I try to garner, views and stuff toward them, but some of them might not appreciate that, getting all that attention on them.
Yeah, see, I was gonna go there next, actually, because and I'm glad you said that you appreciate what they do, because and Sean's a friend of the program. He's been on here. I know he's not thrilled with you, although he's still liking my daughter's pictures on Instagram, so I guess he's not too angry. I am just curious about sort of how you are towing the line there, because that Heat fans are like rabid at this point, right? Like they just want something to happen. Some of the takes out of Portland have been a little out there. I think when they start to talk about the Heat organization, which I think has been, I don't think that's something Sean did as much, but some of the others kind of speculating about how the Heat handle things, which is just wrong. Honestly, if you've been around the Heat at all, that they're not steering anybody, which I think was one of the allegations made by one of the Portland hosts out there. I mean, it is kind of a line, because I know you say you appreciate what they do, but some of the stuff that's come out of there, Heat fans don't appreciate, right? So where do you go with that?
You know, I don't do this for a living like you guys do and they do.
Well,
And I
we don't
figure
either
that,
at this point. I'd like to say we do.
you know, filling people got to fill a lot of airtime and get content out there. So you're doing this for hours. You're going to say some things that maybe you want to take back. And if I find it, I'm going to put it out there. And then we're going to have other Heat fans, Heat Twitter, coming at you and saying, hey, this is wrong, or these are the facts, these are the stats. Some of them, more than others, they'll say, okay, yeah, I'm wrong, and I'll admit it and stuff. But yeah.
Well, I'm just glad there's not a Dru Star in Portland, like aggregating our takes on this podcast on a regular basis. So we appreciate you working on the Miami side here. Let me ask this before we go to break, and then I'm going to let Alex jump in again. What has been the hardest listen of any of the podcasts that you've had to listen to? Is it the Portland ones? I mean, Danny Meringue has a particular bias, it seems like. That came out today with the whole Hero saying he's, awful in pick and roll situations. Maybe I'm misquoting him a little bit, but I mean, he combined pick and roll with isolation. We know Tyler's not good in isolation, but also nobody is saying Tyler necessarily is going to go to Portland. I mean, I thought that ship had sailed a long time ago. So I don't even know why Tyler's the issue. It's Tyler being used to get a first round pick potentially to send to Portland. That's my understanding where this is right. And nobody is saying that Portland, wants Tyler. And again, it's not because Tyler's not a good player. It's because they don't have a positional need there. But what has been the hardest listen out of all of them? Is it the Boston pods?
In the early going, the stuff coming out of Boston was just off the wall, just crazy stuff coming out from all the usual suspects and the ringer, KOC and Simmons and Mannix, and you got all these people up there. And that was a long time ago. We're talking about already 2 months ago when they've completely run out of gas. They're just reserved to the fact that they're not getting. But when they thought that there was a chance that they might, I mean, they were talking about our package is garbage and our picks are going to be terrible and stuff like that. And now, they're not doing that anymore. They know that they're not going to get them. But now the stuff coming out of Portland, the early going with them, for us, it's like a business transaction. We're getting Dame because we want him for a franchise and we want to do better with him. But it's a business decision. Them, it's very emotional with them. I mean, they're really tied to this guy. I try to put myself in their shoes, and think about what if Wade just had 4 years on his contract and said, yeah, I want to get up out of here and only to one team. So I understand where they're coming from. And at the beginning, it was really emotional, really a lot of venomous stuff coming out of there about never trade them there. They don't have it. And Tyler Hero is not going to get it done. And even their best offer is a terrible package, the worst in NBA history. And that stuff, you're not really hearing so much of that anymore. They're kind of going through the different stages of grief. And now, even, these guys that we're talking about that, maybe didn't like the package, they're saying, I just want it to get done. I want it to get done before camp because I don't think they've had that magnifying glass put on them as a franchise, as media members up there in Portland. The Heat fans, Heat media, Heat Twitter, we go through this every year. I want to say we've been through the fire. We're built for this with the big three and all the swing and a miss, huge free agent acquisitions that we haven't gotten over the years. Tyler Hero's being a name, being offered up for all these big names, Mitchell and KD, and now Dame. So this is just old hat for us. The Miami media, they're used to having eyes on them and stuff like that. And like, you guys are the most downloaded podcast, so you certainly know what it's like to get that audience. And I don't think that they were ready for this. They just, quite frankly, were not ready to have that target on their back. And now that they're putting stuff out there, I'm posting the clips, they're getting all this traffic and Heat fans and everything that comes with the Heat fans, the good and the bad. And they just, some of them maybe are not liking what's going on. I can promptly block me after I had aggregated one of his tweets that said that Dame is not going to be happy if the third pick is used and not traded. pretty innocent tweet. It was his words, but I tweeted that out like on a Friday, and it apparently made a lot of work for him over the weekend. And he
Yeah,
just
well,
said, "Yeah, I'm gonna block this guy."
well, there were a couple. Yeah, there were a couple of the other Portland. They say everything that they're doing is getting aggregated. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, again, there's a plus and minus to that. Like, as long as the quotes are accurate, aggregation and in context, then to me, aggregation is fine. The problem we have with aggregation, and it's been done to us at times, not by you, but by others, is when something's taken completely out of context and thrown out there. I mean, it is all about context. And look, aggregation is the game now. I mean, that's, because of social media, things get out there quickly. And sometimes we talked about it last season, it's a telephone game at this point, to a certain degree. And, I kind of ran into that with the Donovan Mitchell thing report that ended up coming back to Donovan 3 levels away from what I had actually said. And
The Ingram thing.
Yeah, the Ingram thing. I mean, there's been a bunch of them. I mean, it happens a lot. I mean, Mitchell coming at me directly on Twitter or X or whatever it is was a little bit different. And, again, at a certain point, you can't really explain. Nobody wants to hear it when you're like, well, that's not what I said. But, that's 4 aggregations ago. And that sort of stuff happens. But I've followed your aggregation pretty closely. And I can't say I've listened to all the podcasts, but it does seem like you present full thoughts of in quotes, which – in some cases that doesn't happen. And when that doesn't happen and you just get like the mini soundbite is often when it's not really what the person intended to say or what they were attempting to express. So, I feel like, on the aggregation front, again, I know it's a dirty word and all that, but I felt like you've done a fair job on that. And it does seem like there is some emotion in Portland that is tied into this. They don't want to lose this guy, I get it, but the organization did not do right by him, and it's just that simple. And in the same way that the organization did not do right by Dwayne Wade in 2016, and I think Heat fans can acknowledge that at this point, and many did at the time actually, because I remember it being very split and even in Dwayne's favor at the time. But it doesn't seem like the Portland media, even more so than the Portland fans, it doesn't seem like they have really come around to that thought. All right, we're going to close up here with Dru in a second. I'm going to let Alex jump in here. I do want to mention a couple great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and a watch party that we're having on Sunday. Dolphins open at 4:25 in Los Angeles against the Chargers. We'll be at Biscayne Bay Brew House starting at about 3 o'clock. This is an independently owned brewery. We tell you about Biscayne Bay all the time and all the cool things they do, but we've been waiting for this brew house to open. It's down the street from Kaseya Center, and they are the official craft beer of the Miami Marlins. They're also an independent brewing partner of the Miami Heat. They're usually open Wednesday through Sunday. And again, we're going to be there on Sunday starting at about 3 o'clock. We're going to do a pregame Dolphin show, maybe do a postgame Dolphin show as well. But here's the cool thing. If you mention 5 Reasons, the first beer is on us. Okay. And so, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. So go down there, park, come hang out, and have a free beer. Okay. And then stick around. They got a full food menu as well. So check them out, the Biscayne Bay Brew House. It's right in downtown Miami, and we're going to be there starting about 3 o'clock. Kickoff is scheduled for 4:25 Eastern. Also want to mention Prize Picks. Use the code 5 FIVE. You can play the NFL props, obviously, coming up this weekend. Thursday night game, Chiefs game. You can certainly play that. And also there's a Dak Prescott free square on there that you can check out. Use the code 5 FIVE. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. You just want to play hoops. The FIBA semifinals are on there right now. You can start to play those with the USA playing against Germany. Alex, go ahead.
All right, so kind of after listening to everything you have, for all this time, I guess my question would be, what do you think, if you had to bet, ends up happening with the Dame Lillard thing? Like, does it last into the season and they acquire him before the trade deadline? Do you have any sort of anxiety with that happening, or, maybe anxiety with the idea that Joe Cronin would just draw a hard line at trading him to the Heat in the first place, whether backed by ownership or not, perhaps. Where are you with the whole thing? And, and also just kind of an open format to let off any takes that you have, and just kind of interested to hear where your perspective is on all this.
So, a little while ago, I would have said that this was going to get done before training camp, maybe right on the eve of training camp, or even maybe, media day. But that's assuming that you're dealing with rational actors up in Portland. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we're dealing with rational actors right now. That's a franchise and Joe Cronin that have done everything possible to try to push Dame out the door, but they've barred the door on the other side. They've done everything possible to try to get him to be the bad guy, to make the trade demand. They succeeded in that. He made the demand. Cronin said that he'd work with another team to try to find a package that works and try to make Dame happy and get him to where he wants to go. They've said all the right things, but every action that they've done is to push him out the door, and they locked the door on him. So that's assuming, yeah, in a rational world, we get him before training camp. They should want to trade him before training camp. They shouldn't want to even bring him into media day, cause that circus. But as this thing goes further and further, this is not a guy that's Cronin that has a lot of experience as a GM. This would be the biggest move he's ever made. This is old hat for the Heat. We've been around this rodeo. This is literally Joe Cronin's first rodeo. I don't think that they're really acting rationally up there. So I think this could certainly go into the season. Now, if it does, are they going to trade him in December, January? I don't know that package is going to get any better. And I certainly don't think there's going to be another team coming out of the blue to rescue him. I think that Portland fans and that franchise should want to get him to where he wants to go. But you hear these reports that they don't want anything to do with what Miami's offering. They're not talking to them. They're not bringing other teams in. And I think if you're Portland, if you know this is going to be a three-team deal at least, Tyler Hero is going to have to go to another place. You have to get involved in these conversations. The Heat can't just go and trade Tyler Hero. You hear, oh, if Tyler Hero was worth anything, they would have traded him already. And then you can come to us with whatever you've traded Hero for. No, it doesn't work like that. They're not going to trade Tyler Hero unless you've specifically told them, hey, this is what I want. We don't know what players or teams or picks you want. We can trade them to 5 different teams, and then we should go to them and say, hey, which one of these teams' first-round picks do you want, since you don't want ours? But they're just not. I mean, at least the reporting coming out of Portland and Barry Jackson and everything is that they're just not even talking. So if you're not, I mean, they should really be involved in this process. I mean, if you want the best possible return and package, you just have to be involved. So if they're just not saying, the report from Barry Jackson is, we want to know what you want. We don't know what they want. So that's why I'm saying we're not dealing with rational actors. They should want to help us get him to where he wants to go. But if they're not going to pick up the phone or answer our calls, then we're just going to go into the season with the team that we have. As Poe says, we have enough.
You really hit on it there, because it's just it's irrational thinking on a bunch of different levels. I mean, I think we talk about the front office, the Portland front office. I can't understand why Joe Cronin wouldn't want to just turn the team over to Scoot right now, get as much as you possibly can, and then get the deal done and enter training camp with a clean slate, because my belief is that Cronin will buy himself more time as general manager if he pivots to go young all at once than if it's kind of Dame sort of in the picture and it's a distraction, and they don't even really want to win games. They shouldn't want to win games. They keep their pick as long as it's in the lottery, and they should be trying to get up as high in the lottery as they possibly can. But the not dealing with rational actors, and again, I don't want to defame, anybody who's basically pushing it out there for their team, does apply to some of the podcast hosts too, because I think it is some of this argument that's being made, like you talk about, like, let's just go get something for Hero and bring it back to us, and then what? Like, then you're stuck with picks you don't want, okay? And you've traded who currently stands as your starting 2 guard, or as we talked about on the podcast yesterday, Tyler here might be their starting point guard right now for the Heat entering training camp. So that makes no sense whatsoever. I think that rational behavior will start to re-enter the picture as we get closer to training camp and this becomes more real. for your sake, I hope so, because I can't imagine you having to continue to listen to all of this stuff for the next several months, even though it may help us become, stay as you keep saying, and we appreciate the advertisement, the most downloaded local NBA podcast in the country. It's certainly good for us. And we also appreciate that your audio isn't great because we're trying to hide you here. So we just want to say that in this case, no, we're not going to let anybody know who Dru is. I just hope Portland doesn't come up, like I said, doesn't come up with their own Dru Star out there to hold us to our takes the way that you've held them to theirs. I guess the parting thought is anybody you've aggregated is welcome to come on the podcast with us as well. So Sean already has. He's a friend. He can certainly come on with us again. Danny Meringue wants to come on and explain this whole isolation thing with Tyler Hero. He's welcome to. We'll even take some of the ringer guys. I don't think that they'll do that. Who should we be trying to get on the podcast, Dru, before we close?
I think you should try to get Danny Meringue. He actually just DM'd me now. He's a good sport about it. He didn't block me today with all the stuff going on. He doesn't mind getting extra attention for his show, like other people shouldn't mind. So I think you should try to get him. He seems to be somebody that's really caught the ire of Heat fans, and he's put a lot of stuff out there, and he seems to not be backing down from a lot of it. So I think he'd be a great get, and he's a good sport about it. Heat fans, go easy on him.
All right, Alex, we're gonna get Danny Meringue. Okay, we'll get him. Dru, at any point, are you gonna reveal your identity or no?
Ooh, you know what? Maybe Dame gets here, but no, probably. Maybe when Dame gets here.
I wouldn't want to let anybody know I listen to that many podcasts either. All right, we appreciate it. Follow him on Twitter. We know most of you already are, but he should probably have more followers than he actually has at the moment. Follow him at Dru_Star. That's DRU_Star on Twitter. We will start working on Danny Meringue expeditiously, see if we can get him on the podcast. We were always up for conversation here. In fact, Alex, I think we owe Matt Moore an invitation, actually. HB Basketball.
Oh,
I'll just leave it there.
That'll definitely generate some conversation. That's what you're looking to do, for sure.
I worked with Matt. I like that. I've had Matt on before. We'll have him on. So look, it's all fun. It's all fun. It's all good stuff. And it's just I just don't think that the rest of the country really gets the Heat. I don't think they really understand how the organization works. It is so different from every organization in the NBA, but also from those in this market. They just do their own thing. They do their own thing, and they're a mystery to people who have not dealt with them for years. They're a mystery to me at times, and I've dealt with them for 27 years. So that's just the way that it is. Dru, we appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Ethan. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Alex.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you for listening to the Five on the Floor on the Five Regional Sports Network.